we were pissing neon green every day.
The big ball of heat in the sky was too much.
I thought there was a bear.
Reality goes, yeah, fresco. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to
Storytime.
Storytime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Storytime with Jon and Friends. I'm your host, Jon. Today we have a great guest for you. Please join me in welcoming my new friend, ska and punk legend, David McWane from Big D and the Kids Table. David, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. It's nice to start the Saturday.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
All right, I guess I'll go way back. And, you know, I was just one of those kind of headbanger kids back in the 80s, you know, like a Beastie Boy listening, early Metallica listening, Iron Maiden, and then suddenly started getting into the Bosstones and was a drummer and just loved drums. And it was the only thing that I could find any interest in when I was like in middle school and high school. I just didn't gravitate to anything else. And just played drums and wanted to be a drummer, had all these influences. And then when I went to Berklee College of Music the first year, I started a band called Big D and the Kids Table, and I was on drums. And it wasn't to like do anything. It was just to hang out with each other. It wasn't like to make it in the music industry or, you know, anything like that. And then after a couple months of practicing, the band said, you know, we think you should be the singer. And I was like, why would I ever be? It was never anything I would even think about. I mean, I passionately love drums. And so I said, sure, that sounds like funny, you know, because we weren't really serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then we accidentally got a couple shows, and then we accidentally kept going. And then 29 years later, I've been a singer.
Wow, that's a great story. I'm also a drummer, so that's interesting to see how I feel like I've come across a lot of drummers that have made that jump to singer as well.
I think sometimes drummers sit in the back and like they're, you know, I always loved backing up my singer. You know what I mean? I definitely looked at it as like, you know, I am the tank behind the front line, or I'm the belly gunner of, and he's the captain. I loved that relationship.
Yeah.
But then, you know, every drummer knows that sometimes, you know, singers can be a little weird. And so you're always like, I you know, maybe if this had happened, you know, drummers sometimes are opinionated. Like, what if this, what if that, what if this? And so it's fun being a singer as someone as a drummer, because I get to kind of do all the things that I always wished maybe my singers would have done, or, do you know what I mean? Like bottled up, like accidental, like opinion, or, you know, I don't know. It's just, they're so opposite. They're such opposite things. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I do miss backing up my singers though, from the back in the day.
Yeah. Do you still drum now? Like when you're at home and stuff, or?
I have a side band because I miss drums so much, called Cuidado. And I played drums on that record because I had one of these feelings like, what if I never get to play drums again? And so like with the old members of the band I used to play in, Drexel, Todd, we started Cuidado, and I now accidentally sing in the band and I don't play drums in it anymore, but I still got to get one more out on, you know, tape.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. So what was it like? What's it like touring with, you know, so many members in one band?
That's a good point. That's a good question, because Cuidado started to go out and we have less members, and yeah, I think it's you just have more friends optional to hang out with. So you know, sometimes when it's like a 3-piece or a 4-piece, it's a real tight pride. It's a real tight like group of people, like a, you know, like a wolf gang. But you know, so you stick together and you kind of huddle together, and it's more intimate, I guess. But then when you have like, sometimes we have 10 or 13 people, it's just a party. It's just like your friend. It's just a moving house party.
Yeah. But so you guys can't really like tour in vans or anything.
In vans, we make it work. Well, we're usually 6, and then if a horn player is sick of its job and need to get out for sanity, we'll be like, come on, you can come along, Paul. And then we're 7. And then if, you know, 2 horn players are sick of their jobs, then we're 8, you know, and then and so we kind of like, if the show allows us enough money to pay more friends to come along, we do it. But you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? It's kind of a budgeting thing and a scheduling thing
Mhm.
because, America's hard. And so it's like everyone's got work and bills. So yada, yada.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what is it like? What's the writing process like for a band like Big D?
Well, I would say Big D, one of the main reasons I really love writing in Big D, and it's always been this way, is we encourage each other to write, even if someone doesn't want to write or is not a writer.
Hmm.
There's this mentality of like, whoa, that is so weird what you just showed me. How can I make it better, better, or how can I complement it? Rather than in some bands, like one person writes all the songs, or maybe two people write all the songs. We encourage, Dan Stoppelman, you haven't written a song, you write a song, or Ben Basili, you haven't written a song, you write a song. And then if they're bashful, we try to encourage it, because I'm not trying to sound like Mr. Punk Rocker, but we're not ever trying to write songs for mass appeal. You know what I mean? That will change your writing. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you're trying to sell your song to then you'll do certain things in an arrangement and chord progressions. But if that's not one of your goals, and it's just kind of like, because I think music is what your soul sounds like, and so it's like, Ben, what's your soul sound like? Just to hippie it up, and so we're always trying to allow everyone to have fun and get their soul out there, get their music out there, no matter how weird or crazy it is.
Very cool. Did that evolve into that, or has it been that way since the beginning?
It's always been that way, because we
That's
went
awesome.
to music school. So like we went to Berkeley.
Okay.
And so when you first go to Berkeley, at least my experience and all the Big D friends, you want to learn, and you want to learn from each other. So the whole idea of just like you writing your songs, it's almost like you're just running your tire in the mud. Like you're okay, like great, but don't you want to learn from other people, try other things on, even if it's not comfortable at first?
Mhm.
We were just very into like, wow, you do that? That's so weird. So
Yeah.
we're just, we're just gardening for new bright ideas.
Right. Yeah. So, how long were you guys playing as a band before you started diving into touring?
I would say like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good time.
well, because every band knows, when you first get your first 10 to whatever songs, we'll just say 10, 10, 15 songs,
Mhm.
and you're like, we got it. Maybe you record it. The hardest thing is to get your damn first foot in the door. It's
Mhm.
like you can't get through the threshold of the first club, So of course we started. In my advice is if you're not pretty enough to go to their party, then throw your own party, and throw your own house shows and throw your own
Mhm.
VFW shows, and then suddenly you're pretty enough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so I so that's what we were doing. But so we played like a couple frat parties. That's fun. Playing the songs over and over again because we don't have enough, but they don't know because they're wasted.
Yeah.
But we're kind of like trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And then one day we were lucky enough that a band dropped off a bill with Boxer from Vagrant Records. For all you music nerds, it's a pretty cool first show.
Mhm.
And Epileptic Disco and Big Lick, I believe. And then we opened up, and we just thought it was hilarious that we wouldn't even call ourselves a band. It was just that we are going to professionally play a club. It was
Yeah.
a pretty big laugh for us.
That's very cool. What was your first tour like? Like after that, was it mostly like DIY stuff?
Yeah. So that's funny that you mentioned it, because I just took all the footage, not just, but just kind of the Shot by Lammy, our first records touring. Yep. Got a 45-minute like video of it, and it's on YouTube. I just have to like make it public. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty funny. We look like kittens. We look like puppies. Like,
yeah.
I can't believe we were allowed to go out in the world. I mean, we look 7 years old. And yeah, it was First Grade Crush, I believe, the band that we just traded shows. That's what you should do. Like, I'll give you a Boston show if you can give me a Milwaukee show, and we work together. That's the best time too about being in a band, is when you're just trading shows with other bands and making it work. I mean, that's the best stuff. So yeah, we just got a van. Didn't have enough seats, so someone had to sit in between the driver and shotgun, and somebody had to sit on the wheel hub. and all slept in people's houses, or if we could, one hotel room. It's just like it's just the classic story, just wild and ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So have you guys spent a lot of time in like parking lots and stuff with sleeping in the parking lots? Because when I would tour, I mean, we were almost strictly in Walmart parking lots, just because we were trying to save a buck.
Way later when we had like a bandwagon,
Okay, yeah.
we would park there. But the early days, I'm happy to say, back in the 90s, it was mostly friends' houses. It was just a network of you can crash in my place, you can crash in my place.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So the band formed in the 90s. The first record came out in the 95?
I think 95 was the first practice, and 97 was the
Okay. What's the difference? Like, what's the biggest difference from touring in the 90s to the 2000s?
Okay. I will answer that, but remind me, I also want to do what's the difference between studio.
Okay.
Okay, so the difference between the 90s and was the mass simulation of the States hasn't happened yet. It was still only McDonald's, like meaning you could find a McDonald's in every town. And what was coming up was Subway. But there weren't Targets, there weren't Home Depots, there weren't how you can go to any city or town, it's the same, it's the same thing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Maybe it's a Carl's Jr. instead of a White Castle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that hadn't happened yet. So every time you went to a town, it was just mom and pop shops of all kinds, and it was more like you explored. It was more like exploratory. Like, whoa, what is this? What is that? Your van broke down, you had to go see Chuck and go to Chuck's house. You know what I mean? And so it was just different. It was just very different. Sometimes when I go on tour, somebody be like, "Do you want to go walk around Chicago?" I'll be like, I know what it looks like. It's every town is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that was nice. That was cool.
Yeah. So basically, it's a lot harder to find something to do now on tour than it was back then, because everything's so easily right there now.
Yeah. Well, you just wanted to see places that had that town or that state's culture, flipping off of it. You know what I mean? Like at least the breweries. I don't know. They're kind of corporate-y, but at least I don't know. I'm trying to say something good, positive. Like I don't know. Like you would just go to these weird places, like Sally's Sandwich Shop, and it would be like, "Hey, Sally's there." You know what I mean? And so I think the States showed more of their culture back in the day.
Okay. And then you said to remind you the difference between studios.
So this is just funny. And I don't mean, and I don't mean anything negative about it, because it's just the way it is. Just a joke. So back in the day, before Pro Tools, when you just went on tape, recorded on 12-inch tape, this is what you always heard in the recording room from the control room. Like, what? Why'd you stop it? Just do it again. Shut up. I can do it. Just play it again. I got it. Just play it again. I can do it. Just do it again. And now this is what you hear. Click. Is that enough? Can you fix it? It's like the opposite. It's the opposite mentality of no, I can do this.
Yeah.
Just everyone give me a chance to, I don't know. Can you do it?
Isn't there a button that you can? Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
Because what was cool is there used to be this thing called a Simpty track, which was basically the metronome track. And if you somehow forgot to put it in, or if something got messed up and your song had a pause, you had to feel, if you were doing the guitar overdubs or singing, you had to feel like a broken Atari console. You had to kind of, maybe it was a second in a quarter, to jump in right up. But it was and you can't see the music, you can only hear it. So that stuff, it was a different sense. The eyes weren't part of recording yet. It was just ears. And that was kind of fun because everything was invisible.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I never thought of that, just because I didn't start recording until, late into, mid 2000s or whatever. So I have a couple questions here that I wrote down pertaining to tour. And if you have any stories or anything you want to sprinkle in there, that's totally up to you. But can you tell us about your first tour as Big D and the Kids Table, and some of the most memorable moments from that tour?
I mean, I think it was with First Grade Crush, and gutted that I'm kind of forgetting. I think it was just First Grade Crush, but No on 15. I did it. Yeah. Then there was this other band, No on 15, and just showing up at places, and then like, the venue. There's no show, like there was supposed to be a show, but remember, there's no cell phones either, so you can't get like promoters on the phone. You know what I mean? Like you have to go to like payphones or someone's house to call the promoter, and he has a landline, and he's just not home. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and maybe he forgot to tell you that the show's canceled. So you'd go. It was just very adventurous. Like you just go to this place. You're using a map. Remember, MapQuest doesn't even exist yet, and you're just using maps. And so you get there, and you're like, is this the place? And I just remember this one place had just chickens in the front window, where you put mannequins to wear clothes. It was just chickens, and like we got the door open, and this guy was just like sweeping, and it smelled like poo. And you're just kind of like, is the show happening?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. And then all the bands just go somewhere to eat or crash, and it was just silliness, But
Yeah.
one of the biggest things is I always noticed was everyone always trying to make sure everyone was okay. You know what I mean? Like, if sometimes people get down and tired on tour, and always just making sure that, oh, is James okay? Is he all right? And then you kind of like make sure to, check in on that person, and, get them a water or a beer or an arm around the shoulder to be like, hey, I know maybe their cat died that day. You know what I mean? Like things happen when you go on tour. And, so, just a lot of camaraderie, a lot of hope, and a lot of just, we can make it happen kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you guys do to kind of like keep your spirits up, while you're on tour? Because it can be grueling when you're doing, a 30, 40 day tour.
Yeah. Well, for me, I always recharge perfectly, and this seldom happens, but if I can just go see a movie, you know what I mean?
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
a big movie theater person. And, but you can't have days off really on tour because it costs money. So that really seldom happens. But if I get a good movie in, I'm a happy guy. But I think one of the things to put in your back pocket if you're a band is, I always say, don't talk about anything negative about a show the night of the show. Like, because everybody has adrenaline in them. They drove 4 to 8 hours just for that 45 minutes. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of adrenaline. Maybe some people in the band drink, you know what I mean? So they might be like off, kilt. But you when you get off the stage, you don't say, oh, the tempos were this, the tempos were that, or the guitar. If you want to talk about anything negative, wait until the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't bring it up the next morning, well, good. They shouldn't have brought it up last night. You know what I mean? So just try and be like, good job. Compliment your poor drummer. They never get compliments. They're like goalies. They only lose shows. Nobody goes to the drummer, you played everything really well.
Yeah.
They just know you play too fast or too slow. So you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so just try to make the night of the show okay. If the guitar player's patch chord is not working, because it's always the patch chord, and it always happens, and they feel guilty because they crackled and stalled or something. Tell them it's no big deal, because guess what? It's no big deal. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just a name drop. When I saw Nirvana play, dun 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 dun, I was watching Dave Grohl, and he was playing, and then I saw him go like this, huh? And he started like looking around the stage, like, what? And then you see Kurt Cobain just playing, and then he just looks down and stops playing and looks really guilty, and the whole song falls apart. And Kurt goes, I was supposed to do 2 choruses before the bridge, right? And then Dave Grohl goes, yeah. and everybody's laughing. And he goes, should we take it from the second chorus? And he's laughing. He goes, yep. And then they go right back in.
Yeah.
That's the best part. That's the only thing I remember from the show.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So it's up to you to make. It's part of the show. You know what I mean? It's great. There's no mess ups.
Yeah. And for the most part, like, you're your own worst critic, and you're the one that notices it, not the people in the crowd most of the time.
Oh,
unless
yeah,
it's something of that, that stature. It's a big thing where everybody comes to a halt or whatever.
Yeah, that's the worst too. Like when someone who came to the show goes, "You guys were great," and the person goes, "Yeah, I don't know." It's like, what? Just say thank you.
Yeah. Take the compliment and move on.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny. What goes into planning a tour as Big
Oh
D?
my God, it's so much work.
Mhm.
It just takes like, so many drafts. You know what I mean? Just little successes, one at a time. Like Big D booked our own Southeast Asia China tour. I mean, think
Oh
about how
wow.
hard that was. Um, but I'm a little older, so I'm going to do that older thing where, but don't moan too hard, because back in the day, I know this is cliche. We had this book called Book Your Own Fucking Life.
Hmm.
And in that book had just a list of phone numbers of promoters and venues. And you just cold call these people and be like, hey, Florida Metal Club, can the ska band play?
Yeah.
So nowadays you can just, Google like Screamo act in New Jersey, and you have like a huge list of bands. So it's a lot easier now, but it's still hard. So,
Hmm.
so I just think you should just, meet as many people as possible, and, do that trade show things. It's just keeping in touch with people. Uh, I also look at it like this, like every band is pretty small and the music industry is really big. So if you do that like David and Goliath thing, like if the industry is Goliath, then you have to get a bunch of friends to take it down with you. You can't,
Hmm.
unless you're connected, like your father or mother works for Sony, you know what I mean? And you're going to get in because, you're an American prince or princess. You don't have to worry about that. But if you're a normal kind of person in a band, you need your friends to take it down. Like the grunge scene, all of them took it down together. Different, the pop punk scene, they took in the ska scene does a really good job of working together to bring it all together. But
Hmm.
don't look at other bands as competition, because there's not a limited amount of seats on the bus. You know what I mean? So make friends and work together to make your collective music genre dream come, true.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. What is your favorite part of the touring process?
Well, my favorite part about touring, and I'll get to the music after this, is going to places that I've never been, because I'm a person that, pretty much everybody in Big D are people who would never be able to afford to go to the places that we go to. We would be one of those people that like, maybe one day I'll go to Europe for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that. So the fact that we'll be in like, Malaysia or Indonesia, and these people know the songs, and they're happy that you're there,
Hmm.
is just extremely humbling. And I my life would never be like it is now if it wasn't for touring and the music scene. So just getting my silly ass to these places has just been unreal. I make the joke I have more friends in Austria than Austin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. So that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing about touring. But the other thing is meeting people and keeping up on friends, like high school friends, college friends. Um, what's really crazy about touring is your music friends, like the guys from the Pie Tasters or Real Big Fish, or you might only see them 3 or 4 times a year, or once a year, but your lives are so similar in the music scene that it's like you saw them yesterday.
Hmm.
So you have all these like potent best friends that you just get to keeping up on in life. And sometimes, just the other day we played Slam Dunk in England, and Dan, Johnny Christmas, and Matt Appleton, Goldfinger, and Real Big Fish's horn players were there, and we were all together, and it just felt like, the best reunion.
Hmm.
The Skins were there. It's you get to have little reunion fun parties, and you get to see friends more.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I want to go back a little bit to, you said, playing in Malaysia and all these places where people know the words and everything, is even when they're singing the words, like if you were to meet them afterwards, is there still a language barrier for the most part?
Definitely, it's weird. Definitely with some people, but you'll find that there's a sprinkle of people always outside the U.S. that can kick around English.
Yeah.
You get
What are those interactions like? Because they don't get to see you on a regular, like on a yearly basis.
I would say there was only one time in my entire life where so many people were like kind of wanting photos and I guess autographs and just handshakes and hugs. that it was like the band goes, "Are you okay?" And I went like this, "I think I am okay, but I think." And it was like my most like boy band thing where like people were, like Austin Power, like people were just kind of, like, oh goodness. But that only happened once in my life. But that's why I mention it. It's just great. I mean, spending time with people who you don't speak each other's languages, like some of the guys in P.O. Box don't. That's an amazing ska punk French band. And I have a really good relationship with the guitar player Jay, and we don't really talk. We just laugh at the same things, and we like spending time next to each other, but we don't exchange many words, you know what I mean? And so there's a nice quiet relationship that you can have with people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. What have you guys had any like major disasters or anything like that while touring, and how did you handle it if you have?
Once we went on an incredible Australian tour, Hits and Pits. It was the second year, I believe, and it was an amazing billing. We were just with awesome bands like Masked Intruder and Death by Stereo and just a whole bunch of cool bands. And the promoter, a guy named Ben, skipped out and didn't only paid I think like Death by Stereo, because Death by Stereo is so awesome that they did that thing where they just like put them against the wall and to get us the money. And so we lost $11,000, and so
wow,
we just went there and he never paid most of the bands. And so for a band like us to lose $11,000 is like if you lost $11,000.
Yeah, that's life-changing money,
Yeah, so it took a while to recover from that, but we did. I mean, it was, it's the kind of thing that could break up a band, but we liked the band so much that we would never do that. And so that was really disappointing. We saw someone die on the highway once, like a car accident, and we were there with the person. It was pretty rough.
Tough.
Yeah, that was tough. Just I don't think any other weird things. We once had like an off-duty security guard get drunk at the show and like mess with kids and put me in a almost like suffocating headlock once. Just weird stuff.
Yeah. So have you guys had like any life-threatening experiences on tour? Anything like that?
I guess that security guy was a little too violent. Like he was pretty violent. We've had a lot of thefts, like while on stage, people robbing you while in the green room. Couple fist fights, but like back in the day, like I don't mean to say it. I mean, I don't know. There was a couple like drunken like fans, like get out of here kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you can expect that on a Dropkick Murphys tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're in a ska band on a Dropkick Murphys tour, that's like going to a baseball game and there's like a minor league game before the baseball game. Nobody wants to see it.
Yeah. That's funny. What is like? Do you have a most memorable or unique interaction with a fan?
There's definitely the people who say like they explain like they got either cancer or something life-threatening happened and they had to spend a certain amount of time in the hospital and a certain record got them through it. And that's pretty amazing. And then when these people are from a different country, that's even crazier. Like if you've influenced someone's life in a positive direction, and I mean, I just keep going back to the fact that I'm just some New England kid who shouldn't have that big of a reach,
right?
Or impact. So things like that, visiting certain fans in the hospital, visiting fans that are dying. Some heavy stuff happens. Yeah.
But that's powerful too, with being able to be there for that person.
Yeah.
In those moments too.
There's some hospital ones that were interesting. Just like people having to go away for a little while. And what was the other thing I was going to mention? But what's really kind of positive interesting is the photos we have of like someone will be standing with me in 2001 and then them standing with me in like 2021. You know what I mean? That's 20, it's a long time. And they're taller than me in the second photo. You know what I mean? I mean, that's trippy. And some of
Yeah.
our like really like passionate fans are like, from back in the day are now in their 30s. They're like adults now, and they're still just, I don't know, they're just still just wild and I don't know. It's just seeing some of your fans grow up is cool.
Yeah, and you recognize a lot of them too, right? Like, so it's not like they're a new face when you see them, once a year or whatever.
No, yeah, you see them grow up, get married.
That's cool.
Crazy.
That's very cool. So when you guys are out, is there any like anything that you make a point to do while you're out on tour, as far as in a city, there's some food you want to get, or a record shop you want to hit, or anything like that?
The guys definitely. I get really nervous before a show, so I don't usually like leave the venue to go to the cool restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guys definitely do it, and they pick me up some food. But I just get nervous before the show. Like if I leave the club and we're on in 2 hours, I just feel like I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to be there. So yeah, they go out and they'll always get like some of the local food, and so there's always making sure, you go to In-N-Out. You get the local food. That's a big thing. And record shops, yeah, but there's less of them. But there's more lately. There's less of them, but there's more lately.
Yeah, they're
And
coming
you
back
have to
around.
be careful because you don't want to be in England and come home with 50 pounds of records. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
That happens. So I think mostly, just to go back accidentally, the biggest thing on tour is just trying to hit up your friends who have moved to that area.
Yeah,
Can Brian come out? He moved to Seattle. Let's see Brian,
Yeah.
It's more like that. Humans.
That makes sense. What's the best meal you've had on tour? Is there anything that stands out?
I think when we went to China, that was pretty crazy because they put such a huge amount of food out. Getting some coffee. Huge amount of food out, and it's all very different than you're used to. So when we were in Southeast Asia, in Japan and China, it was almost like being a toddler again, where every single thing you ate was a new experience.
Right.
So yeah. But of course, New England people like going to California to have proper Mexican food. But I love Chicago. I've always loved Chicago, and I like having the deep dish there because we're in there. And the deep dish pizza, for people who don't have it often, it's just so ridiculous. Yeah.
It's a ridiculous concept.
And it's really fun every time, and I only get to do it like every 2 years or so. So I'm always like, "Oh, this is the craziest thing I've done. This is great."
Yeah, that's funny. What is it like playing in Asia? With interacting with the people there and how everything goes down.
Well, yeah. So each country, obviously, I would have a different answer for. But Japan, it seems that everyone takes more care in their job. Like, if you have this job, then you want to do a really good job. And sometimes, not to America diss, I'm not America dissing, but sometimes here in the States, it's more like if someone has a job, it's more like who they are comes first, and like you're interrupting them from being who they are to do the job.
Yeah. They're focused on what they want to do, not what they're doing.
Yeah, but in Japan, everyone's like doing whatever it is that they're assigned to do really well. You know what I mean? And you're like, and it's inspiring. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, wow, you're really good. Like, it humbles you. So Japan, the politeness is really amazing. One time I saw one of those classic Japanese businessmen passed out in the subway face down, and his shoes were off, and his wallet was out, and his looked to be a nice watch was off. And I said to Yuji, our friend, I said, "Oh, I need to help this guy." And so I took his wallet and his watch, and I stuffed him in his shoe, and I stuffed his shoe under his arm. And he's like, "Dave, you don't have to do that." And I was like, "I definitely do have to do that." And he's like, "No, nobody's going to take it." And there's hard concepts to understand, but then like in China, it's like China is just wild. I mean, during the day, it is just like, get ready. You know what I mean? Like, people push. And so you'll get like pushed by someone, and you'll turn, and it's just like a little grandma, you'll be like, "Ow, who the fuck did that?" And you're like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" You're like almost going to like push the person back, but then it's like a sweet woman. So but then, so it's wild and it's always moving. It's like a water current of people. But then at night, I have to say, it is so beautiful. The red lanterns everywhere. And, you'll see this shop. We saw this like this structure and we were like, oh, this must be an ancient, awesome thing. Sorry, we have to go in to learn. It must be a museum. And it was just a shoe store, meaning they have such old structures that you think, it's just beautiful and old and amazing. And then at Southeast Asia, I'm just in shock the whole time, absorbing everything, keeping up, that I don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? Like when you're in shock and you're like, I'm just, everything is just so new and different and wild that I just keep quiet and keep my eyes open.
Yeah. Is there a favorite place overseas? Doesn't have to be Asia, anywhere in Europe or anything, anywhere really that really stands out to you? That's your favorite place to go to and play?
Yes. Before my favorite, I will say there is one thing that I habitually do whenever we go to Beijing. And there's this little old woman who sits at a corner near where we stay and where the club is. And she has the most ancient looking, what's it called? Sewing machine, not powered, cranked.
Yeah.
And she always has a line of people, and she's just sitting on like the dirt mud, a line, and they all have like new shoes, not just like sandals or something, like new fancy basketball shoes. And she just is fixing everybody's shoes, and she's always there. She's always there.
Wow.
And I when I can't sleep at night, I'm like, I know she's there.
Yeah.
Because it's daytime there, and I'm like, she's fixing all those motherfuckers' shoes right now. And then
she's a woman of the people.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. I just want to like bring her a shoe and be like, she stitched it. She stitched it. But then in Prague, there's the Devil on the Bridge, and there's this guy who's got all these piercings and tattoos, and he holds a mirror, and you're supposed to pay him to take a picture. I think he split his tongue, and he looks like the devil. I mean, he looks like the devil. And he has a mirror. If you want to take a picture with him, I think you have to pay him. But if you try to take a picture of him without paying him, he holds up the mirror. So you just take a picture of yourself, and he's always there. And so I always try to check to see if those people are there. But I really love playing the Underworld in London. It's just like ton of iconic bands have played it. It's such a proper place, and it's near Camden, which is a great area. I love always playing Boat to Fair in France. I believe it's in Paris. And it's just like a boat show, and it's across the street from the Bibliothèque. And so that place has always got a lot of good memories. And I just always love going to Scotland because the McWanes are from Scotland, and I get to visit a couple, like my grandparents' bench is there. And so I always try my hardest to get back to Scotland. That's
very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory from all the tours you've done that really stands out to you?
There's like the famous blood story, which I can tell you. Steve doesn't really like it when I tell this story, especially nowadays, because people are more health conscious.
Right.
But we were playing in this squat in Wermelskirchen, Germany. Great squat. I mean, just really great. Oh, I can mention another favorite squat after this. And the show's over, and we're doing a couple shows with this band called Gob Squad from Denmark. And we were doing this thing where, you sing the song, and then you take your pint, smash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the bass player did the thing and went smash and cut open his hand really bad.
Oh no.
And it's really late at night. And it was so bad that they picked him out of the drinking room and brought him into the live concert area room, laid him down, and they're calling the hospital, and it's not good. And so while everyone was taking care of him, I kind of have like my mother and me like, well, why don't I clean up the blood? So it had a chair with one of like a curve for your bum, and it pooled blood, a pretty good amount of blood in the chair. And I was like, nobody wants to clean this up. I don't mind. I'll clean it up. And so I took a pint glass and poured the blood from the chair into the pint glass, and it was, a good amount.
Yeah.
And then I cleaned up the blood, And I went into the other room and I said to the bass player, look at all this blood. Like, this is how much blood I just cleaned up from you. You know what I mean? Like, and Steve Foote, our bass player, remember, this is just young and dumb.
Yeah.
He takes the pint glass and just takes a sip of it, and blood mustache, and like the look on the bass player's face was so memorable. It was like, hey man, that's my blood. Nobody said you could do that. And Steve regrets it. He hates the story. He's a vegetarian, and all night in the squat he threw up all night.
Man,
I think that's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. I was like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, that's punk as shit too, like, give me that.
It's so bad. So bad. It reminds me of the great movie Near Dark, when the vampires take to the pub and they basically do the same thing. But to go back, something I'm really fortunate is in Austria there's this club called the Arena, and it's just the greatest squat. I think it was an old, not to stay morbid, but slaughterhouse. I believe it's an old slaughterhouse. And I just got to see the development of it. Like, when they kind of first had it, it was kind of grungy and what you would imagine a squat. And now it is just like a multi-million-dollar, it has like 3 or 4 stages, a bunkhouse. You can now do laundry there. It has a bar. I mean, it's like a compound. And it was just, for an American to see squatters' rights, because, if you don't know squatters' rights, after they carpet bombed, Europe, and after the wars, sometimes they didn't have the owners. And so if you squatted long enough, then you got the property, and these, you can get $1 million property if you just hold on to it. And so they just did an outstanding job,
Yeah, that's very cool. I had not heard that story before.
The Arena, yeah.
That's wild. Let's see here. What do you have a favorite tour that you've done?
I have favorite shows. Any show that we're playing with Melt Banana, because that's like my favorite band.
Okay.
And we've played like 1 or 2 shows with them, so that's always crazy. Favorite tour. Let's see. I think I was trying to think. I mean, any tour. Okay, I got it, and I mean it. Any tour that you're on tour with Real Big Fish, Mustard Plug, Pie Tasters, is just such a great time. And now I'll add our new close buddies, the Slackers. But there's a quick little thing I can tangent in with Real Big Fish, and it's really funny that Big D and Real Big Fish are so tight. Like, any time is a good time when we're together. It's just so great. And we did their last tour before COVID. Like on Sunday was the last show, and then lockdown was on Monday. And I don't think they played a show since. Is that when I was young and a little Wolverine-y, I would be like, what's up with these colorful California ska bands being all goofy? I was that kid that was like, no, it's supposed to be like the Specials and like, dark and Operation. I was, I didn't like that stuff. You know what I mean? And so then I started playing shows with them, right? And I love the transformation, of somebody who's got a chip on their shoulder for no reason, of me slowly going, oh my God, this band is outstanding. You know what I mean? Just slowly going, oh, I get it. I didn't get it before. And then meeting them and being like, oh my God, I love the band members. Do you know what I mean? So my transformation for Real Big Fish is just amazing, and I'm glad for it. So any tour with them, I'm just lucky.
Yeah. Is there a dream? What would your dream tour be? Like, any band, dead or alive, anything like that?
I would say if we were on tour with Mr. Bungle and Melt Banana at the same time, that'd be great. Yeah. But then, I would love to tour. I mean, it'd be great to tour with Operation Ivy. That'd be awesome. Oddly enough, we never toured with the Bosstones, so I can't say how that. I know.
That's crazy.
I know. I think that would have been really, really cool.
I feel like there's still time for that though, because they're still out gigging.
I mean, like, if they got back together and we did it, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You know. So that's a loss. But and then I'll just do some of my favorites. You know, if I got to go on tour with Quicksand or Iron Maiden or the Beastie Boys, you know, that would be a big deal.
Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be a cool one to see too as well. Do you have advice for upcoming, you know, musicians, people who are looking to do it the way you've done it? You know, what is your best advice to give somebody in today's world with the internet and everything going on? Because it is definitely way harder today, I feel, to break into the industry, while at the same time it may be a little easier if you were to go viral, but that's very hard to do as well.
You know, I totally agree with you, and you said it exactly right. It's harder and it's easier, and it's easier and it's harder. I even said the other day, like, man, I would hate to start a band, right? You know, like if I was 16, you know what I mean? Like that'd be hard. There's a couple things I would say. One is, remember, it's not a competition. Be nice to your fellow bands. You know what I mean? Like, don't be one of those. Be happy for other people's success. You know what I mean? Help each other. Don't do it another way. You know what I mean? I would say you have to not give up. I know when older people say don't give up, it becomes a brush off thing, but 90% of everyone is going to give up. So just don't give up. I would say don't genre chase it, be who you are. Don't chase genres that are popular, because the only people who can chase genres, like this genre is now popular and you're going to try and jump on that, is fortunate people who are rich, connected, know people, because they can just package it up and throw it in.
Like Post Malone. He's just came out with he's coming out with country songs. Or Beyonce came out with a country record. So
right. And that's those are the gods.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's like it's one of those things where if you're a ska band and then emo and then screamo and then that country kind of music, just be, so when genres come and go and they get back to you every 7 years, they'll be like, Chuck is the number one blah 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 guitar player. You know what I mean? And you're known for that, and that's you. You know what I mean? I recommend that, rather than trying on all these different jackets, and because you don't want to become popular not playing the music that you love. That can be a Twilight Zone Black Mirror experience for you. Every day playing songs that you don't really love is not good for you. It's going to make you really, really, really sad. And maybe you'll start drinking, and you want to make sure you're playing the songs that you love and that you want to play every single day. It's one of those, careful what you wish for, because then and just know, if you're not fortunate, rich, or connected, it's going to be harder for you. So when you see the fortunate, rich, and connected make it before you, you have to just accept it and not, it's just part of life. It's just the way it is. So just don't think you're not good enough because you're not successful. It's just that the industry's rigged. It's, Veruca Salt, from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a good example. She could be like, Daddy, I want to be in a ska band. And you're like, okay, I'll get it going right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, somehow you have to have peace in yourself and be genuinely happy, knowing that there are rich people who are going to lily pad jump way over you.
That's great advice. That is great advice. So don't give up, people.
Don't give up. Everyone gives up. Don't give up.
I gave up.
And here's another thing. And with going to music school in Berkeley, you don't have to be the best. I do think that you should put in playing your instrument just as much, if not more, that you do on your social networks. You know what I mean? Like remember, Slash kicks ass at guitar because he practices guitar. Les Claypool, these are all 90s references, but is the great bass player because he's a great bass player. So you know what I mean? You don't want to have a great paint job on your car, but your engine is shit. You know what I mean? That's like social media versus skill. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to have a good balance. So make sure you're good at your instrument, but you don't have to be the best. You know what I mean? You just have to try hard every day. You have to work on your band every day. if it's grunt work, if you can't be creative that day, then do the grunt work. Clean the hair out of the Marshall cab wheels. Like organize this. Just always be pushing ahead, because no one's gonna work as hard for your dream for you than you. You're the one. All those people that have successful like sub shops or hair salons, or they work really hard at them. So you have to put in that same type of like life or death. And that's the way I always looked at it, is life or death. Like, I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my dream. I know, and I don't want to be the Foo Fighters or Green Day, but I do want to be in music, even if it's in a small level, and I'm goddamn it going to fight every day for it. And if you do that, you can definitely have it.
That's great advice. I really appreciate you being on, David.
Yeah.
Is there now? My last question. The last record came out in 2021. Do you guys have any future plans for a new record?
Oh yeah. So 2024 is us preparing for 2025, because 2025 is our 30th anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's huge.
I can't believe. I remember when Face to Face had their 20th, and I saw that, and I was like, "What are you talking about? This band's been together for 20 years?" I remember being like, "What? And now we've been 30, so it's crazy.
So the future plans are get ready for 2025.
Yeah.
Play some
Big
shows
stuff
in
coming.
between there.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you being on. This was a lot of fun. If there's anything you'd like to promote, anything like that, now would be the time.
I would just say to check out a lot of new awesome bands. I mean, they're not new, but they're new as the ska industry calls waves. Death Guitar Pop from England, JB Conspiracy from England, Random Hand from England, of course, We Are the Union, Kill Lincoln, Catbite, and one of the Dope Dollies just came out with her new record, solo record called The Rins, R-I-N-S. That's Aaron McKenzie's, called The Rins. And the Pomps, our guitar player Alex's band, and my side band, Cuidado.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much for being on. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around, checking out the episode. Be sure to check out everything he's got going on. All of his information, all his links will be down below in the description. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye, bitch.